Hi again, Ilya. What exactly has the mayor been saying?
Hi again, Colin. Well, the mayor is pretty much making it clear that the Russian capital has unleashed a real war against COVID. So what are these places and organizations where more than half of staff members, 60% to be precise, will now be subject to mandatory vaccination? That is cafes, restaurants, bars, so pretty much the entire food industry, beauty salons, gyms, spas. Besides this, theaters, museums, libraries, also transport facilities, and the departments of banks where the staff members directly deal with the client. So wherever the worker is meeting the client face to face, now this falls under all these categories. And like I said, 60% of the staff will have to get the shot. And the mayor even set the deadlines for these organizations that will have to provide their workers with the vaccine. Now, for the first component, that will be July 15th, and it will be August the 15th for the second component. Now, you might want to ask, what about the medical exemptions? Well, the Moscow City authorities are making it clear that nobody has forgotten about them. So if for this or that reason you are exempt, if you have allergies, if you're pregnant, if you have the chronic diseases that isn't something to be matched with the vaccine, no matter where you work, an exemption means no jab. And I also have to tell you that for now, this is only a rule that will be applied to the Russian capital, so it's not yet happening on a federal level in Russia. Now, we heard from the head of the Moscow government, Sergei Sobyanin. Here's how he justified his decision.
It's up to each person whether to vaccinate or not. It's their decision as long as they're sitting at home. But when you go out to public places and get into contact with other people, consciously or unconsciously, you become complicit in the spread of the disease. If you work in an organization that serves an unrestricted range of people, then during an epidemic, it's definitely not just your business, no matter what personal protective equipment you use.
There's a lot of reluctance in most places to do this kind of thing. This makes Moscow one of the first regions where COVID vaccinations are mandatory, but there are very serious reasons why the government's taking such a strong measure, aren't there?
Well, I can tell you that for 4 or 5, possibly even 6 months, the situation with the new coronavirus cases in Moscow has been rather stable. I remember looking at the numbers almost every day. It was plus 2,000 roughly a day, plus 3,000. But again, if you think of Moscow, it's a massively huge city. Perhaps it sounds like just a drop in the ocean. But then in mid-July, the curve started going up. It got all the way to more than plus 7,000 cases on Sunday. Now it dropped down to a little under 6,000. But clearly, that is a very impressive spike. These numbers are the ones that we haven't seen since the end of last year. So that's why Moscow City authorities had to take action. Only a few days ago, they announced that the bars, nightclubs, restaurants won't be working during the night. Plus, the Russian capital authorities announced that Moscow will be pretty much on holiday till June the 20th. So days off for most Muscovites. But it seems that this wasn't enough. So now they're announcing this partial mandatory vaccination. But the word mandatory may sound scary for some. What I have to tell you, though, is that the Moscow City authorities are reminding about the fact that workers in some of these sectors, for example, doctors and teachers, they are already used to obligatory vaccines from other highly infectious diseases like measles, for example. And such practices have existed for decades, if not centuries. And this is just another addition to the list. Now they will have to get the COVID jab. Now, in the meantime, my colleague was talking. He had an opportunity to ask all the important questions. He was speaking to the top doctor at the most important COVID hospital in Moscow, and he described the urgency. He described how bad the situation with COVID is right now, not only in Moscow, but in other big cities of Russia as well.
Что произошло?
What really happened? Why do we see such a spike in COVID cases?
Мы действительно
Well, we've loosened up too much. There's a careless attitude to personal protection. Face masks, for instance, social distancing, all the rules we've been closely following over the last year. I think people just got really tired of it. All these factors together resulted in a surge in COVID cases. Call it a third wave, if you will. It happened. It's a fact. A mask is not only your protection, your safety. It's also your responsibility towards society, to some extent. It's the same story with the vaccine. It's a sense of responsibility for reducing the pressure on the healthcare system and reducing the number of severe cases. I'm deeply convinced this situation could be solved only by mass vaccinations. This could bring our normal life back again.
What do we know about this new Indian strain?
Я реально знаю то, что
I know what I see on an everyday basis. Over 200 patients admitted to hospital.
Every day?
Yes, every day.
It's like at the peak days.
It's even more than at the peak of the first two waves.
They say it's hysteria, everybody's panicking. It's a big pharma conspiracy, so they could make profit out of that, selling a bunch of junk.
If it was hysteria, all the temporary COVID hospitals and additional reanimation services in the city would have been empty. And all we know for a fact is that over 1,500 severely ill patients are in intensive care. Over 500 are on ventilators. We don't see this picture with the flu. My message to everyone is that only vaccination can prevent this situation.